All right, buckle up, because today we are diving headfirst into the world of MrBeast.
We're talking about the guy who's practically a YouTube scientist.
And lucky for us, he's given us a peek behind the curtain with this How to Succeed at MrBeast Production playbook.
It's incredible. This thing's basically a masterclass in going viral.
It really is. And one of the things that jumped out at me was just how data-obsessed MrBeast and his whole team are.
Oh, yeah. He even calls it, like, studying virality. It's not just about throwing stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks.
It's about understanding the science behind what makes people click.
Right. Like, he's got this whole system for analyzing videos, breaking it down to these core metrics.
CTR, AVD.
AVD. Yeah, exactly. Click-through rate, average view duration, and the average percentage viewed. He's got everyone on his team speaking the same data-driven language.
It's like their secret code for YouTube domination. But it's not just about gaming the system, is it?
No, not at all. He uses those metrics to figure out what actually makes people watch.
Because we've all clicked on a video with a crazy thumbnail, only to be disappointed, right?
Totally. And that's where expectation matching comes in, which he talks about a lot in the playbook.
Okay, so expectation matching. Break it down for us.
Basically, your video has to deliver on the promise of your thumbnail and title. Think of it like this. The thumbnail is like a movie poster. You see that epic poster, you get hyped, then you watch the movie, and it's a total letdown.
Ugh, the worst feeling. You feel cheated.
Exactly. And that's what MrBeast avoids at all costs. He gives you the thumbnail, but then he also delivers on that promise when you click.
He uses a great example in the playbook comparing two video ideas. I spend 50 hours in ketchup versus I spend 50 hours in my front yard.
Both kind of crazy. But which one are you more likely to click on?
The ketchup one, for sure. It's just so unexpected. You got to know what happens. So you've got the click, you hooked them with the thumbnail, now what?
The next few seconds are crucial. MrBeast talks about how even something as simple as good lighting at the start can make a huge difference.
Wait, really? Lighting affects how long people watch?
He says it correlates with higher viewer retention. It's all about those first impressions.
Interesting. So you don't want to lose people with a dark, blurry intro, even if the content's good.
Exactly. He sweats those details because he knows how important it is to hook people from the very first frame.
So we've hooked them with the thumbnail, the title, even the lighting.
Yeah.
But how do we keep them glued to the screen?
That's where MrBeast's whole video structure comes in. This is where his data obsession really gets interesting.
Okay, because you can't just have nonstop crazy for 20 minutes straight, right?
He actually breaks it down into these specific sections, each with a different goal. He calls it his recipe for engagement.
A recipe, huh? So what are the ingredients?
Well, we already talked about the first minute grabbing attention, but then it's minutes 1 through 3, he calls it out specifically. This is where you transition from the hype to the actual story.
Okay, so you're setting the stage, giving people a reason to care about what happens.
Exactly. Like, he uses the example of a survival challenge. Instead of just showing day 1 in those first 3 minutes, he'll condense multiple days.
Ah, so you see the passage of time, the challenge is mounting. You get invested in their journey right away.
Right. The quicker they're invested, the less likely they are to click away. And then, bam, right around minute 3, he hits you with the 3-minute re-engagement.
3-minute re-engagement, what's that?
Think of it as a jolt of energy to keep those eyes from wandering. It's that moment where MrBeast does something totally unexpected. Like, wait, did they really just do that?
Okay, so it's got to be more than just random craziness. There's a strategy to these re-engagements.
Big time. It has to be interesting, obviously, but it also has to fit the story. And ideally, it's something only MrBeast can do.
Like when he lifted that house with a crane during the 100-day circle challenge.
Exactly. That's the wow factor, right? Reinforces his whole brand. But then you got to keep that momentum going minute 3 through minute 6.
So that's when you really pack in the excitement.
Yeah, this is like prime time for crazy visuals, quick cuts, big reveals. It's a roller coaster, basically. But you can't just keep that pace up forever.
Viewers need a breather at some point.
Exactly. That's where back half content comes in. Once he knows people are invested, he can slow down a bit, dive deeper into the story.
Let those wow moments breathe a little.
Exactly. It's a balancing act for sure. But then on top of all this, he's also constantly experimenting with new formats.
He's not afraid to retire something that works if it's getting stale.
And you gotta know who you're making this stuff for. He's really specific about his audience.
Who does MrBeast think is watching?
He says, and I quote, teenage memer that likes video games.
So he's got this whole system But it's still got to feel authentic.
And that's one thing he emphasizes a lot, no faking things. He even says, watch the videos.
Wait, to his own team?
Yeah.
Like, that's an actual instruction?
Apparently.
Yeah.
He wants everyone to be immersed in that world, to get the humor, the style.
Be a fan of the brand, basically. Yeah. And that authenticity, it carries over to the brand deals, too. Because he does a ton of those, but they never feel forced.
It's almost like he sees those as content, too, not just ads.
He even calls them content in the playbook.
Right. Like, he's not afraid to make a brand deal part of the challenge, part of the fun. And get this. He actually shares these retention graphs that show the difference in how people watch.
I bet it's a huge difference.
Traditional brand integrations, you see these massive dips in the graph. People are just skipping ahead. But with his approach, barely a blip.
So he's showing that you can promote something without being annoying about it. You're respecting the viewer's time.
Exactly. And that leads to one of the coolest things in the playbook, the information diet.
An information diet. Okay, now I'm really intrigued.
So he believes that what you consume online, the videos, articles, all of it, makes up your information diet.
Makes sense. You are what you eat, right?
And just like a healthy diet is good for your body, a healthy information diet is good for your creativity.
I like it. So what does MrBeast's information diet look like? Lots of YouTube, I'm guessing?
He actually talks about Chris, the guy who's been in his videos forever. MrBeast says Chris consumes a ton of cartoons.
Cartoons. So that's the secret to his success.
Well, maybe. But his point is, the more diverse your inputs, the more creative you can be.
You're making more connections, seeing things from different angles.
Exactly. He even uses this funny example. Imagine there's a purple fruit in Australia that makes you grow 2 feet taller.
Okay, I'm listening.
If you don't know it exists, you can't be inspired by it, right? It's all about expanding that mental library.
I love that. So if you're feeling stuck, try switching up your information diet. Read something new.
You never know what might spark an idea.
And it's not just about the information itself, right? It's about who you surround yourself with, too.
Totally. He's really big on finding collaborators who challenge him, bring something different to the table.
People with those diverse information diets we were just talking about?
Exactly. He wants people who are going to push him creatively, not just yes men. And that leads to another big takeaway. You got to be willing to evolve.
Because what works on YouTube today might not work tomorrow.
He actually talks about how important it is to retire old formats, even if they're still getting views.
Don't get stuck in the past. Always be innovating, coming up with new stuff.
Which is probably why his videos never feel stale. He's always one step ahead. But with all this talk of data and strategy, don't forget the human element.
Because at the end of the day, it's about connecting with people, making them feel something.
Right. He might be a YouTube mastermind, but he's still making entertainment.
And I think that's a really important point. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the MrBeast playbook, what's the one big takeaway you want to leave our listeners with?
I think it's that success on YouTube, it's not an accident. He's not just lucky.
He's put in the work, figured out the system, but then also found a way to make it his own.
He's not afraid to be himself, take risks, and I think that's something we can all learn from.
Absolutely. So there you have it, the MrBeast formula for YouTube domination.
Go forth and create.
That's it for this deep dive. Until next time.